Hello, I'm Kimberly Henry, and this is Living the Good Life. In this series, we'll feature conversations around ways to embrace the goodness of life and take a big, juicy bite out of it. Food for the soul and the funny bone. Learn to give more time to yourself, become a better friend, lead an amazing life, and how to tell the best joke at the party. Living the good life can mean different things to different people. Whatever it is for you, I hope you'll find some inspiration here to live your most joyful, authentic life. Now, on to today's conversation. Our guest today has a truly unique and powerful approach to health, alignment, and food freedom. And for over a decade, she ran a successful clinical practice as a licensed naturopathic doctor, helping thousands of women look at the physical side of health, hormones, and metabolism. But a massive turning point in her own journey made her realize that a flawless physical protocol just isn't enough. Today, she's a naturopathic doctor and master mindset coach who helps high-achieving women dissolve what she calls protective weight. We're going to dive into that. Break the cycle of emotional eating and step into true, unwavering, divine confidence. Please welcome Andrea Maxim. Andrea, glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I am really looking forward to our conversation today. I think it's going to be awesome for your listeners.
Absolutely. Me too. Me too. Now you are in Canada. Where in Canada are you?
I reside in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. So Toronto tends to be the focal point of all things Canada. So I'm about
Yes.
45 minutes south of there.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you. And I'm assuming you are virtual and you share your wisdom all over the place, right?
I do. I help women worldwide. And I do still actually run a brick and mortar practice in my hometown of Caledonia, however, very part-time.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. So we can come see you. So
Yeah.
you spent over a decade working strictly on the physical side of health as a naturopathic doctor. What was the moment or the aha realization where you felt like you're missing a piece of the puzzle?
Yes. Honestly, there was two. It was the very first part of my practice. I would say 3 years in, I was already looking for an exit strategy. And and I've always worked with women, hormones, and weight loss. I have a journey of my own around weight loss. And so that has always been kind of the light that I wanted to shine for women. And early on, I was all in for my clients. Being the healer that I am, I wanted it more badly. I wanted it bigger for my clients. And we would be successful for a short period of time, and then
Mhm.
something would happen in their lives, and we would lose all that momentum. Or we'd be successful when we worked together, and I would do a follow up with them, and things kind of started to backslide.
Mhm.
And being that I was all in and wanting the results so badly, I started asking myself, what is it that I'm doing wrong? Why can't
Mhm.
I bring these results? And it just started to make the practice a lot less fun. So I
Sure.
did more trainings, right? I did more trainings, I learned more things, kind of regrouped myself, stayed in it. And it actually wasn't until I became a mom of two, married, have the fur babies, have the house, and all of the pressures
Mhm.
that I really noticed it in within myself, where I was waking up and it was just Groundhog Day for me. And I was struggling with my weight again, and I was struggling with emotional eating again. And I was feeling really resentful and really unappreciative of the life that I had. Even though on paper it looked great, I was completely devoid of joy. And I was doing business training, and one of the business mentors that I had at the time highly recommended hypnotherapy as a big aspect of growing a business. Because growing a business as an entrepreneur is the biggest personal development journey that
Yes.
anyone could ever take, as I'm sure you know. So I started toe dipping into hypnosis, and I was like, what is this? What is this other mind that I wasn't even aware of? And what I mean by that is we have our conscious mind, which is how we're running our day. It's how you and I are communicating. It's how your listeners are listening. They're using logic and saying, do I really agree with her? Do I like the way she sounds? That's all our conscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yet there's this whole other aspect of us, which is our unconscious mind. And some people use the word subconscious. It's the same thing.
Sure.
And once I started realizing how much control our unconscious mind has on our day, on every moment of our day, because that's where our thoughts are, it's where our emotions are, it's where our fears are, it's where our limiting beliefs are, it's where all of our past memories exist. I was like, this is the missing piece. And right. And so I did all of the trainings I possibly could to become one of the highest trained practitioners in Canada in the mindset space. Now, my background is NLP, which is Neuro-Linguistic Programming.
Mm-hmm.
And the reference I always give is Tony Robbins is an NLP practitioner. Brendan Burchard, Oprah Winfrey, any president, any detective, they are NLP trained, which means we just learn how to directly communicate to the unconscious mind. And then I started weaving that back into my practice. So that was kind of the biggest turning point is I did the work on myself and I was like, now I can actually communicate and hold space and coach better the clients that I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were starting to get significant results.
I'm going to take you back. I just want to take you
Yeah.
back because you've covered a lot of ground here. And this is,
Yeah.
I think, stuff that people can really relate to.
Mhm.
Until you get to the hypnotherapy, that's where it gets a little bit, out of a lot of people's elements. But you're the mom, you're going through the issues. So when you started off your practice as a naturopathic doctor, you weren't the mom, you weren't in that high pressure situation, which we don't always identify being a mom
Mhm.
as high pressure, right? We're thinking C-suite, corporate America or the corporate world as the high pressure place. So I think it's important to take a beat and just say, if you're in this space of running the house, running the kids, running your work,
Mhm.
that's a high pressure situation. And we definitely recognize that. And what I hear you saying is that being in that kind of environment, but not really knowing how to process it, deal with it, or direct it,
Mhm.
um, is what's maybe the cause of some of this unhealthy behavior or your wellness issues. And so you worked on that with the hypnotherapy yourself, and you saw
Yeah.
success.
That and predominantly the NLP training that I went
Mm-hmm.
through. So the mix of all of it. And without labeling it as just hypnosis or NLP, I like to say just doing the inner work, just doing the unconscious mind work is what
Mm-hmm.
did it.
Wow. And how long did that process take for you to kind of feel like you were making some headway?
Oh, it works so fast.
Really?
So yes. So here's a beautiful example of what I can do to kind of explain. For anyone who, again, we're talking identity shifting here. So I was totally like independent on my own, doing my own thing. And then all of a sudden, my identity shifted to a wife. And then all of a sudden, my identity shifted to a mom. And that is neurological rewiring at its finest, where all like I still have intruder syndrome from when I became a mom for the first time because my neurology was wired so tightly around survival and
Mm-hmm.
protecting my pack
Mm-hmm.
that I became hyper vigilant around our safety. And I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that can agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we think about it from that perspective, when we make a new choice in our life, that is totally unconscious. When we become a mom for the first time, a wife for the first time, our behaviors naturally shift
Mm-hmm.
because our identity has shifted. Now, it is a mere moment of I wasn't a wife and now I'm married. I wasn't a mom, and then I had a day of labor, and now I'm a mom. And
Mm-hmm.
that just goes to show how powerful our unconscious mind can be. Even the moment, and I use this as an example, the moment you take a pregnancy test, you are now changing your habits, you're changing your food, you're stopping smoking, you're not drinking anymore, you're giving up sushi, like in the moment.
Hopefully.
So right,
Hopefully.
hopefully. Right. No judgment.
Right.
So when I did my work, um, it was first a choice that I wanted to change. And that is the
Mm-hmm.
catalyst for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Then when we use the tools, I had massive breakthroughs in a 5 minute session. I had massive breakthroughs in a 2 hour session. And none of it requires us to therapize our past in order to do a massive cleanup of the energy that's festering. And that's the best way I can describe it. So once we just vacuum that up, now we have a
Mm-hmm.
clean slate. It's not about forgetfulness. It's just now that energy that's creating anxiety, that energy that's creating fear, that energy that's creating worry or guilt, it no
Mm-hmm.
longer exists. And we can do that very quickly using the right tools. I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely. And so my question now is, I feel like there would be some resistance to that, to,
Hmm.
from your clients or your patients. How can you possibly erase, all of the past or the energy or the stress or the anxiety? How do we erase that in minutes?
So let's be careful about our languaging there, as we're not
Yeah.
erasing anything. So
Okay.
the analogy I love to give is we have experiences. We've had
Mm-hmm.
lived experience from the moment we were babies all the way up until now.
Mm-hmm.
What's fascinating is that our unconscious mind is the only mind that's open between the ages of 0 and 7. So everything we become is a reflection of the adults in our lives. So
Mm-hmm.
we only know our world based on our family dynamics. We only know our world based on our teachers, our spiritual leaders, anyone that is an authority. And that means we're adopting their values, their belief systems, and we're
Yes.
having experiences. All of that leaves an energetic imprint, which is why when you reflect back on a memory where you can still vividly feel the emotion,
Mm-hmm.
that's a beautiful example of trapped energy or energy that still exists around the event.
Mm-hmm.
So your neurology is really no different than snakes in a can, where the snakes are with the lid on, their springs are building up that kinetic energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Pop the lid off and the snakes pop out, and now we have this beautiful clean can. And that's really
Oh.
what we're talking about is the memories still exist, except
Mm-hmm.
now when you reflect on them, they're completely neutral. There's no trigger there. You
Mm-hmm.
just remember it as like, yeah, that sucked. Yeah, I remember how much that hurt. But we're not carrying the hurt energy anymore. And there's
Gotcha.
different tools and techniques that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And that, opens up whatever tools work best for you, right? So there's EMDR and there's all kinds of tools out there. Me personally, I really loved the NLP and hypnotherapy tools.
Okay. And how common is that for someone who starts out their career in the medical or
Mm,
naturopathic realm and shifts over into
yeah.
this more metaphysical space?
I would say from my college's perspective, it's absolutely woo-woo. They don't even look at it, like don't even
Right.
tell us what you're doing, just to give you that frame.
Uh-huh.
And and then it also depends on what kind of healer you are. Are you
Mhm.
a very pragmatic, research-focused healer? Then the unconscious mind is probably never going to be a part of your practice. Are you more of an open-minded healer where you're just like, hey, if something works, cool. And then we
Mhm.
have the complete opposite side of the spectrum where it's all energy all day. And there's a lot of physical tools that we can reference that are energy based, like acupuncture.
Mhm.
It's all energy. So it's just what do you believe in? Where do you think that the value of that training will help your clients? When it comes to weight release, I would very much double down on my belief that it is a fully multifactorial healing process
Yes.
where the physical element is necessary. It's the mental and emotional work that really helps get the success long term, which
Mm-hmm.
again circles all the way back to that's where the identity shift happens of instead of I don't want to be overweight anymore, the identity of I want to be a healthy, athletic, fit woman or man,
Mm-hmm.
that needs to be there in order for it to hold. And if it's not, that's when we get the yo-yo dieting. That's when one stressful event and we derail all of our success. That is not a physical problem. That's coming higher level up to mental emotional. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, this is kind of an area that I've been in for a long time, both as a coach and as a human, as a woman living in, on this planet at this time. It is a constant thing. And at one point, as a personal trainer, I gave up coaching on weight loss.
Right?
I wouldn't do it
It's
because
frustrating.
it was very frustrating. It was very difficult. And there's a lot of conflicting viewpoints and information coming from largely the Western medicine realm of things. So, yeah, I know the struggle and I've lived the struggle.
Me too.
Yeah, all along. So, what typically do you find? Is there a typical hidden belief or subconscious thought that keeps someone stuck that you run into over and over again?
There are four core deep limiting beliefs or wounds or roots that I find exist in every woman, including myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be all four. However, the most common ones I see is I'm not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
I am powerless,
Mm-hmm.
I'm unworthy, and typically some form of I am alone or I'm unsafe, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about one limiting belief, yep, let's use I'm not good enough, which is probably the most common one that we see with women. Here's how it shows up in your day to day. Well, you're now over supporting everyone around you to unconsciously prove that you're good enough as a wife,
Mm-hmm.
as a mother, as a pet owner, as a daughter. You overcompensate at work to prove you're good enough to have your job. And the opposite would be if you believe, and this isn't something we consciously believe, so I want to be very careful. None of this is logical. None
Right.
of this is rational. When you ask someone, they're like, well, of course I believe that I'm enough. And I'm like, well, if we were to peel back the curtain, Oz would say something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
The I'm not good enough wound will also show up in, well, there's a promotion on the table and I'm not going to apply. There's a job that I want to go for. However, I'm going to create all the excuses not to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to build a business. However, I don't want to show up on social media or be on a beautiful podcast like yours because who am I
Mm-hmm.
to be on these platforms? And this is when we start battling ourselves, like even in the health space. If you have a limiting belief that you're not good enough, well, then why would you keep striving to be a better athlete, working out more? What would be the point of continuously eating healthy, even though it's so much easier to not, right?
Right.
Who am I? I'm not good enough to have that bikini body. So why bother? And this is why we have this battle of logically, I want the thing, and for some reason, I can't get it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful sign that there's a limiting belief there.
Mm-hmm. Uh, do you need to know the limiting belief before you can access it and deal with it?
Great question. We cannot heal or change anything without awareness first.
Mm-hmm.
So even holding space for our clients, I can hear it all day. And until they become aware on their own volition that
Mm-hmm.
that exists, we cannot change anything. So
Mm-hmm.
going back to your original statement around resistance, if you don't want to go there, I can't go there for you. And if we don't have that awareness, we cannot change. That is like the equation. Awareness
Mhm.
equals choice to
Mhm.
either choose a different way or stay where we are. And without that, we can't even move. It's like a parked car.
What's the benefit to making the shift? Why change? Why not just live in my little cocoon and make
Hmm.
the easy choices?
Honestly, okay, so we're opening up a whole other world. And what we're talking about here is secondary gain.
Hmm.
Secondary gain is something we all have. Everyone here, I do, you do. Secondary gain is when there is an actual benefit to staying in problem
Hmm.
rather than becoming uncomfortable and growing and changing.
Yes.
And until we are ready to face that secondary gain, that also makes change long standing incredibly difficult to hold because it is so much easier to sit on the couch, watch Love Island, eat your chips, than it is to not do those things and move and walk 10,000 steps. Like 10,000 steps is hard, guys. Like it is not like a 30-minute walk, it is a lot of walking. And you have to actively choose that. So,
Hmm.
secondary gain is the number one reason why we don't change. And
Hmm.
that's valid. And we
Hmm.
have it.
Hmm.
And again, this is coming back to choice. If you now
Right.
know that you're choosing to stay small and safe and in your cocoon, then own it. Don't
Right.
complain that you don't have the life that you want.
Exactly. I love that. And I kind of teeter on that fence a lot of the time, especially with the kind of theme of this podcast. We want to help people unlock their best life, their good life. But I also recognize that it is a choice to just to be where you are, to not be the achiever, not go out and chase whatever dreams.
Mhm.
I think you are happier when you recognize that you've actually made that choice. Would you agree?
I would say it is an absolute human need that we are in growth. And
Mm-hmm.
when we aren't growing, which means we're not moving towards something, the very opposite of that is being stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
And stagnant starts to look like despair, apathy, no energy, wanting to sleep all day. We start developing diseases that we didn't have before because we are staying in one place. And humans have a basic need to grow and
Mm-hmm.
connect and do these things. And if we work against our core need, then it's going to look like what a lot of people complain about. I just wish I had more energy. Well, let's do something different than what
Mm-hmm.
you're used to, right? It's amazing
Mm-hmm.
how small micro movements add up really, really fast.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like sometimes people just need that permission? They need to feel like somebody has given them the permission to make that shift.
I will say that I think a lot of people need the permission, and that's also an excuse. However,
Mm-hmm.
we all have different things, right? So I love to refer back to a great resource from Gretchen Rubin, The Four Tendencies. It is the easiest read. You don't have to read the whole book. You just need to read which one you are. And she talks about four core personality traits. And one of them is the obliger. The obliger is I will do the thing when I'm being obliged by somebody else, a coach. Somebody is motivating me and holding me accountable. That is me, 100%.
Mm.
Now, coming back to your question, is I don't need permission to hire a coach. I need to own that I'm the most successful when I hire a coach and then find a way to hire a coach.
Mm-hmm.
However, that permission piece is coming back to our good girl identity. You know,
Mm-hmm.
good girls only do things when they're told to. Good girls stay silent. Good girls are better seen and not heard. And
Mm-hmm.
that is a identity shift that is also running in most women that again, I had. I am
Mm-hmm.
living the experience with everybody. And that permission piece is also a trap. Nobody needs permission to do whatever they want to do. You have free will,
Yes.
right? No
Yes.
one's taking that away from you.
Yes. And you're just memory lane just popped up for me is I don't know about current generations. I'm at the other end of a lot of folks. But growing up in the 60s and 70s for sure, that was a time where kids were seen and not heard. You sat, you didn't speak until spoken
Right,
to, and you didn't move a muscle without permission to do so. So
right.
interesting to see how that, continues on, as you say, in the subconscious, even though I openly claim freedom and personal power, right? It's
And
interesting.
remember, it's not logical. What we are
Mm-hmm.
talking about is beyond rationale. This
Mm-hmm.
is passed down, especially I work with women and I can see it from great grandma to mom to child. I can see the trend.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the question I always want everyone to ask themselves is the way I'm living constructive for where I want to grow, or is it destructive? Is this behavior constructive for me or destructive? And
Mm-hmm.
that could be on a day-to-day basis we ask that question, right? We talk about hypervigilance and being high achievers, which for most women, then we think hustle, 80-hour weeks, you can't
Right.
rest, like how dare you want to take a nap in the middle of the day? That's also a destructive view on success. For some women, though, that is highly constructive for their programming because it's feeding their secondary gain of, well, the more I work, the more of value I feel that I am,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't necessarily mean it's great for your nervous system or your weight or your stress levels or
Right.
anything, your sleep. Yet this is where we start peeling back the layers. Well, how's that working for you? How is sleeping 4 hours a day working for you? Some people will legitimately say, I love it. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, cool. There's no moving that. If it works for you, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And most would be like, it's not working. I have no energy. My brain fog is through the roof. I'm like, well, are you open to making some changes? And it's not good or bad, right? For one person, it's amazing. For another person, it's completely against their biology. And I think just holding space for that is also really important, where we're not projecting our assumptions of what's healthy and what isn't. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. But I also do wonder if we push ourselves through willpower
Mhm.
to follow the program, whatever it is, whether it's the diet that you're currently on or the working out schedule that you want to be on, or even the career achievements. You're just kind of
Yes.
bulldozing through life, making those things happen because
Mhm.
you think that's what you want or what you should do.
Yeah.
Does there come a time in that scenario where you break down and you can't sustain it anymore?
I would say yes. I would say in the beginning of any new journey, it's inherently uncomfortable. So therefore, it is hard because it is
Mm-hmm.
new.
Mm-hmm.
However, the question becomes, do we need to keep making it hard for ourselves in order to get the success that we want to? And I would challenge that that is not true.
Mm-hmm.
There's a window of time where we are working really hard, absolutely in the beginning. Sustainability does not need to be that hard. And here's where we could even have a conversation around the person who wants to do it all by themselves versus
Yeah.
the person who resources well.
Mm-hmm.
And the viciously independent person will always fail. And I'm saying that on purpose
Mm.
because it will always be challenging when we are doing everything on our own and we think we are the only one that can do it. Because now we've given up all of our time, all of our energy, and those are two life currencies that we need to be very careful about. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what opened that for you because you had a reaction there. So what came up for you?
I love that you went out there and said always. You will always fail. I mean, that's a pretty bold statement that you made.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. I know that you work primarily with women, but I would assume that men can benefit from some of our conversation here today, but also can men help facilitate for the women in their lives? What's been your experience or thoughts around that?
Yes. So the core feelings that women tend to have is I am unsupported, I am unsafe, and I am unprotected. And if a man, whoever that man is in your life, can
Mhm.
reaffirm to you that you are safe, that you are protected, and that you are supported, that's all that we need.
Isn't that
And
crazy? Yeah.
it sounds so simple. And I'll tell
Hmm.
you, this is even something within my own marriage that I've been navigating, still ongoing, of I don't feel supported when you don't prioritize the dishes, which sounds so cliche. Yet on my neurology, when my husband is prioritizing resting on the couch or working or going out golfing, in my perception, and isn't helping me with the responsibilities that need to be done, I feel incredibly unsupported. And that's my perception. So when Scott, my husband, just puts the dishes away, I instantly feel supported and loved. And then my neurology can settle. I talked about intruder syndrome, where I felt unsafe in my home, especially at night. So, Scott, I know when he's home, I feel safe. When he isn't home, I feel unsafe. And we used to have a German Shepherd who made me feel safe, and he passed on this year. So I went to Amazon and bought little bars that you can put under the door. And now I feel completely safe in my home at night. These are core elements that women need. And the more even your man just says, babe, I got you, you're safe, like that even brings tears to my eyes. Hearing it allows me to soften. And what happens when women aren't allowed to soften, they often activate their masculine energy, which is that go, 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 hypervigilance energy. And that's not the energy we're supposed to carry all the time. And so it's this beautiful balance that is required between a man and a woman, or a woman and her partner. Doesn't matter if it's same sex or not. There is a duality there between you and your partner. And that's the core things that women need. And then men have their own elements that they also need to feel validated and appreciated. It's amazing how much men just need to know that they're appreciated for their neurology to settle. So it's all unconscious though. It all circles back to the same thing.
It's a yin yang. It's a
Totally.
totally yin, and we're not talking about gender roles here. We're just talking about the natural things that we need
Yeah.
to succeed in relationship with each other
Mhm.
and ourselves for sure.
Yeah.
So for somebody who listening who feels stuck, tired, and let's just use weight loss or food coping as the topic, um, what's the first step that they can take to start shifting?
Mm. I would strongly recommend, if we're staying in kind of the physical realm, I would highly recommend James Clear's book, Atomic Habits.
Yes.
It was the most eye-opening book I've ever read on habits.
Mhm.
And the techniques he describes of even just like if it's getting back to the gym, all you have to do is just go to the gym for 2 minutes and leave. And you do that for the first week or two. And then you go to the gym and you put your running shoes on and then you leave. You know, it's amazing how small we have to set our neurology up for the habit because it takes 66 days for your neurons to fully grasp a new way where it becomes automatic.
Mhm.
Now, that's kind of on the pragmatic side. Here's what I would also challenge anyone, especially in the weight loss space, is going back to the identity conversation. Am I focused on not being overweight, which is what we call an away from? I want
Mhm.
to get out of pain. Or What if I were to challenge you and if I am adopting the identity of a healthy woman,
Mhm.
whatever shape and size that is, I just want to be healthy. What changes would you make through the lens of I'm a healthy woman? And that's a much more powerful place to play from than the away from of I just need to get out of pain. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense. How concrete does that picture of the healthy woman need to
Hmm.
be?
That needs to be worked on because in the beginning you're not going to believe it, right? That is a choice of every day you're like, yeah, whatever, healthy woman, blah. Sure, healthy woman would eat more greens, healthy woman would have more protein. You got to work it because your old neurology is going to be far greater and stronger than the new baby seeds we're planting. However, what's really cool about neuroplasticity is over time, your old neurons will die and your new neurons build their own strength within your brain. So here's where having affirmations on your phone, where every time you look at your phone, I am a healthy woman. I'm a healthy woman. Make choices as a healthy woman today. Post-its everywhere. Like we need the visual cues, we need the auditory cues, we need the tactile cues every day, which is a choice. And if we choose not to do it, then we also have to take full responsibility for choosing not to and the results of that. And when we choose to do it, we also get to take full responsibility for the choices of doing the thing. The hardest part about everything we're talking about is there's no end date where if I do a 90-day program, I am healthy for the rest of my life. That's why identity shifting is the crux of all of this, because then the tools that we use to hold that identity make everything more automatic. Like we automatically do a lot of things right now as the identity that we are. Yet the version of us that we want to be will inherently do different things. And the more we go in a towards mindset, which again, you're not going to believe it in the beginning, and it will
Mhm.
work if you commit to that. Just what would I think as a healthy individual? What would I stop worrying, fearing about, thinking about as a healthy individual? And then we start to see the shifts. Like your perspective can shift in a day,
Mhm.
even by doing gratituding, the
Mhm.
power of being grateful for Wi-Fi in abundance, oxygen in
Mhm.
abundance, water in abundance, that I have a closet full of clothing, that I have a phone, that I don't have to worry about surviving today. The power of gratitude will anchor in that positive identity far greater than any other negative emotion you could feel, because we can't feel two opposing emotions at the same time. So sometimes it's even about shifting what state we are in, what we are scrolling, what shows we are watching.
Mhm.
All of that is filtering into whether we're in a positive, let's get it state, or back into low vibe, comfortable, scared state. And again, it's just setting up your environment to help support the neurology shift.
Now, you say we can't hold two emotions at the same time. So I want to unpack that a little bit just
Yeah.
based on our conversation so far. We
Mhm.
talked about the unconscious, subconscious thoughts. So if you've
Mhm.
got like a limiting belief,
Mhm.
does that override any affirmations that you can come up with?
Really great question. And we're talking about different elements of the nervous system. So a limiting belief is your belief system. It will dictate everything. So if we don't believe that we can be successful, which in the limiting belief space would be I am a failure, for sure, you're less likely to want to do affirmations because what's the point, right? That's kind of the unconscious piece. However, around emotions, all healthy humans feel all emotions. All healthy humans go through all states throughout the day. Yet it's been scientifically proven that we can't feel joy and severe depression at the same time. We can't feel contentment and sadness at the same time. We can only feel one emotion. So, my suggestion would be let's tap into the bigger positive emotions like gratitude, because
Sure.
that will diminish the negative states that we often stay in. And when I ask a woman that I'm working with, when's the last time you felt happiness? More often than not, with tears in their eyes, they'll say, I don't remember the last time. So
Mm,
that tells me, okay, this is the state that we are spending 24/7 in. No wonder the results are matching that. And that's just a
right.
very simple state shift. And then, yes, the limiting belief work does need to change. And we can do very simple breath work around that. We can do storytelling work around that. We can do journaling around that. However, like we've talked about many times, you also need to choose to believe that that's crap, right? Like I'm actively choosing to believe that I am, and am I allowed to swear here?
Yes, sure.
For
Go for
empath,
it.
like I am fucking badass, powerful woman.
Love
And
it.
claiming that as
Mhm.
my identity will over time erase that limiting belief that I am powerless or not good enough or unworthy.
Mhm.
It just takes repetition for your brain to really catch on.
Mhm. I really want to, I love that. And I think, like you said, repetition, because right away, my thought is, oh, what about imposter syndrome? We're going to just shoot that down right when you first start saying it. But if you can start doing it on the regular, eventually, I would think that that imposter syndrome response would go away.
Sure. So imposter syndrome is pure fear,
Hmm.
right? Fear mixed with all the limiting beliefs. So if you know you have it and you're like, not today, demon, like, not today, I am going to hold that with me, take the fear with me, take that imposter syndrome with me, and I'm going to book myself on a podcast, and I'm going to send that email out, and I'm going to apply to that job. Well, now it didn't win today. Didn't mean you don't have it. You just didn't let it run your choice.
Right.
That's when we start to dismantle that.
Right. Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you think is super valuable in this conversation to share?
Mm. I feel like this was such a beautiful, well-rounded conversation. The only tiny tidbit that I would love to give for
Hmm.
everybody, and this is part of my emotional eating work with clients, is how do we bridge between unconscious and conscious?
Hmm.
And I will tell you that the easiest bridge is pausing. So, what does that mean? We'll go back to the imposter syndrome example. You're about to send the email, and then you feel that imposter syndrome, fear, anxiety start to show up. Pause and allow yourself to actually feel it. If you're feeling anxious, stand and do jumping jacks, like move the energy out intensely. We can't journal out anxiety. Like you just can't. You have to
Right.
match the intensity of the energy and move it through. Then go back from a totally different place and click send. That pause is what most of us distract ourselves from. And that pause is when we can actually tap into what was I just thinking? What was I just feeling? And in the emotional eating space, that is the first step because rarely is it about food. It's, I just didn't want to feel alone. I didn't want to feel unsafe. I didn't want to feel anxious. So I ate. And it's
Hmm.
purely a distraction technique. So the more you allow yourself to just take 30 seconds and check in, the more connections you can start to make of, oh, there it is again. Oh,
Hmm.
there's that fear. Oh, there's that limiting belief. And then, do what you need to do to kind of dismantle it so it doesn't keep running, and then do the action. And the more you take action anywhere, the less those negative neurons will fire.
And you're
And
talking about actions that serve you in what it is you're trying to achieve,
exactly.
not the late night rant on social media that,
Please no. Please no.
that you regret in the morning.
Please no. No.
Don't push
All of
send
our
on that one.
highest good, all the actions of our highest good for all of mankind, please stay in that realm. Yes.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
what is the best way for someone to reach out to you if they decide they wanted to know more about what you do or ask questions?
I am predominantly on Instagram at the Maxim Movement. And it's 2 M's in the middle there. That's where to find me. DM me. I'd love to chat.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes as well so that you can find that information. Andrea, it has been a pleasure. I loved our conversation. You have so much wisdom, and I feel like we could go on for another hour, but I won't keep you. Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you. Oh my gosh, the pleasure was all mine. And thank you for what you're doing with this podcast.
I appreciate it. Be sure to check the show notes for links mentioned in this episode and join us in the Living the Good Life Facebook community for previews of each episode, the opportunity to pose questions directly to our guests, bonus content, and a community of people committed to living their best life and sharing the journey. Thanks for listening. Let us know what value you received from this episode and what you'd like us to explore in the future in the comments. And please take a moment to drop us a like or some stars. I'm Kimberly Henry. Let's get out there and live the good life.